Hi class, want to have a little fun this week? I want to see how many of you actually watched this video. So comment on this weird little thing that's above my shoulder here. What do you see there? It's a strange instrument, isn't it? This will be a good way to test, see who is not watching these videos. Send me an email. Say hi. Tell me how you're doing with your research paper. I'm going to talk this week about paraphrase and summary and block quotes. And this is something really that I wish I could teach as early as the definition paper or certainly the argument paper, but I can't teach everything at the same time. So usually my approach is to let you experiment with it, and I make comments on it, and you get more sophisticated as you go along and or you write in this academic style. But here's what we're up to right now: the finesse of bringing in quotes to a research paper and figuring out what's the most eloquent way to bring them in and mix them with your own writer's voice. A lot of students make the mistake, excuse me, it's easy for me to say, make the mistake of having these big long block quotes that are like a half a page long or even a quarter of a page long, way too long. 4 lines is a long quote. And so what happens is that you get the paper just is overwhelmed with these block quotes, and your writer's voice gets buried. A lot of students don't know how to paraphrase correctly, but really the best way to bring evidence in is to know what you're reading so well that you can close up the research that you've been reading and say it in your own words, because there's this process called synthesis and analysis, where you analyze everything you've read and you understand it up here so well that you can explain it back to somebody without referring to the original research. That's a pure version of paraphrase or summary, but it's very difficult to do that. So sometimes the best way to do it is to have a very short direct quote and then add your own summary of the rest, because really your job is to take sometimes technical jargon that you've been reading and explain it to the reader in such a way that they understand it. And a lot of times, the things that you're quoting are pretty convoluted and filled with jargon and just not that easy to kind of parse out for the reader. So part of your job as a writer is to translate that. Part of it is just to make sure that you're writing the paper in your own writer's voice. A perfect paper is about 75 to 80% your voice, and the rest is quotes. And one way to achieve that balance is to have a really nice blend of direct quotes, paraphrased quotes, summaries. Now, one thing you really have to be careful with is you do have to attribute paraphrased evidence. You can't just throw it in. Otherwise, if you're throwing in, say, a bunch of statistics, people are going to wonder, where did you get that information? So if you are paraphrasing, summarizing your research, make sure there's a citation at the end, and even set it up like you would with a signal phrase if it was a direct quote. But you don't put the quote marks around it because it's your own voice now. One other really common mistake, I really want you to avoid this, is called patch writing, where you take like a 30-word passage and you change a few words here and there and you try to make it your own, but it's really 26 of the words are from the original source, or even 18 or even 10. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to paraphrase 100% in your own voice. Don't just go through and change a few words here and there. That's a really common mistake. And guess what? Turnitin always finds that and spots it and color codes it and puts it up in part of the feedback. And a lot of times that's called unintentional plagiarism, where you're not really plagiarizing, you're not cheating, you're not using somebody else's words, but you are accidentally kind of borrowing from somebody else's language. So you want to avoid patch writing too. So that's the kind of thing we're going to study this week. And when we have an exercise in paraphrasing, I like you to experiment taking a jargon-filled passage and summarizing it for the reader in 100% your own words. That's a fun challenge. And it's not just an exercise. When you're finishing the revision of your own research paper, you really want to make sure you have the nice, perfect balance of your own original writer's voice and some very select perfect direct quotes mixed in with paraphrased evidence. This is not easy to do. You have to practice it often. And with feedback from me and from the team teachers at the Writing Center, you will eventually achieve that beautiful balance of your own voice and the evidence. That's our goal right now. Have fun with it.